Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and it's match day. And I'm excited. I'm excited. Look, I think AC Milan have got a lot of injuries. Manchester United have got a lot of injuries. But I think that people are getting a little bit, it's a 6 o'clock kick-off on a Thursday. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I look at, I don't really think about the Europa League massively until it actually comes along because it's depressing. It's not the tournament I want to be in. But the Champions League's over for a week now, so we can focus on the Europa League. And we've got a good chance of winning this tournament. We've got a very good chance of winning this tie. So we'll be talking about that in a little bit. But I want to get into the headlines. I've done my homework as well. For anybody who was watching the 8 o'clock show last night, we were asked the question, what was Manchester United like before the Glazers? And without doing the homework intensively like I have done now, I was saying we used to spend better. And what I've done is I've looked at the first 4 years of the Glazers and the first 4 years without the 4 years previous to the Glazers. And it's a very interesting lesson in what has changed at Manchester United because of these owners who put us into debt. It's a theory, it's an opinion, but I think it shows quite clearly that United had a transfer strategy before the Glazers came in and it changed when they came in as well. And of course, it's down to incompetence, not spending properly and being in debt and having to think more about that debt. Which we'll speak about in a moment. But let's get into the headline of the show. Bit of a setback for Manchester United around their transfer summer. We've also got an update on the director of football, bit about Cavani, Matic leaving and a few other things as well. But you'll see Varane on the thumbnail. This is a player I personally would love to bring to Manchester United. Now, reports from Spain are still quite positive that Manchester United could well bring Varane to Manchester United this summer. He's undecided on his future. There's a feeling that he wants a new challenge, as we spoke about yesterday. However, what Spanish reports are also saying is that if Varane does decide to leave Real Madrid, there are several clubs interested in taking him. And that is the blow for Manchester United, because as we know, when other clubs enter a transfer race, Manchester United lose. And I can't see, and this is basically what the report is saying as well, Manchester United can't win this race. And I think that it's very sad. It is a setback and it is a blow. But, I mean, I suppose when you think about it, when I sit here and say I'd love Manchester United to sign Varane, do I really in my heart of hearts think we can sign Varane? No, I don't. And this is just, I don't even think Manchester United pre the Glazers would have a great chance of signing Varane. I think we'd have a better chance, but I think in the modern world that we live in, Manchester United, because we're not consistently in the Champions League, because we're not consistently fighting for titles, and because we're not actually, I suppose, expressive in the way that we do transfers, we don't go out and go, that's the player we want, and we'll get that player. I think Chelsea do that. I think Bayern Munich do that. I think Juventus do that. I think Real Madrid and Barcelona used to do that. They want a player and they're going to get that player, and that's what's going to happen. And look, the prime example was Jadon Sancho last summer. We wanted Jadon Sancho, but we weren't adamant about getting him. If we couldn't get him at the price we wanted, we would walk away from the deal. And Manchester United's mentality is very much that, as the evidence shows. They do want good players, but they will walk away from a deal. And I think with Varane, you've got to want that player. You've got to go and get that player, and the end game has got to be to get that game and get that player. And I just don't think we can. I don't think we can do it. There will be a career mode today. It'll be a little bit early, Thomas, probably about 2:15, because we'll be live at 4:30, because that's when the team news is coming in. 4:30. Anyway, so yeah, I think that I'd love Man United to get Varane. I think Varane is the sort of player, Varane, Koulibaly, Koundé, these are the players we should go for. But more and more, I think we're not going to get those three. And more, I think we'll be starting the season with a player that we already know is a third or fourth choice. And that, to me, is never good enough for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But I think the club restrict whoever's the director of football, whoever's the negotiator, whoever is the manager. I think they're going to be restricted by the fact that we don't go into transfers with the sole aim of getting the first or second choice. We don't do that. And I think there's going to be a race for Varane. I mean, Varane may well stay at Real Madrid, but the hypothetical situation that's being presented is that if Varane leaves Real Madrid, there will be teams such as PSG, maybe Juventus would be in for him, certainly. I think Chelsea would have a look as well, and Manchester United. Well, every other club I've named has a better chance of us getting than him, and I think that's going to be the problem that we will face. I think United's only hope is that the transfer summer market is so swamped with quality centre backs that we just end up getting the one that nobody else wants, in a way, if that makes sense. So if PSG get Varane and Koulibaly goes to Chelsea, Koundé's left. Where's he going to go? Well, he could go Barcelona. So, Pau Torres, well, he might go Real Madrid. Badashil, well, that might go to Liverpool. Come on down, Tyrone Mings. And I don't know. I think that, and obviously, look, I'll put my hands up and say this is just totally based on how we deal with transfers, the evidence of it. They might go and do a mad one and pull out a Varane signing, in which case I would on that show I would say, look, I've given them a lot of stick. I've given this board a lot of stick, and they've deserved it. But if they can pull out a deal like a Varane or a Koulibaly or a Declan Rice, I would applaud them. I would say exactly the right sort of signing, exactly the right sort of attitude and ambition. Well done. I mean, I think we all deep down want to applaud the board and say, yes, you're showing that passion. And I'm definitely a second chance human being. I always want to give people a second chance, unless they've done something ridiculously illegal or something. But I would love to do that. I'm not a stubborn person. I'm not. There are people out there that will still say Luke Shaw's shit and Harry Maguire's useless and this, that, and the other. I mean, I'll say when they're not very good, I will do. But when they are good, I'll say it. I'm not bothered. I just want what's the best for Manchester United. So if this board could pull a madness out and actually do something competent that's going to really improve us, then I'd be very happy. And look, I'll just say on this, Raphael Varane or Koulibaly would come into Manchester United and make us infinitely better defensively. They're better than Harry Maguire. And therefore Harry Maguire would have somebody better next to him, which would make him better. I mean, Harry Maguire said it himself yesterday. I think I took some time to think about what Harry Maguire was saying last night. I couldn't get to sleep thinking about it. It was like, if my left back's doing well, I'm doing well. And it was a weird comment, but then I was thinking, well, maybe he means that if he gets a better centre-back who's better than him, he'll become a better player. So if Luke Shaw's playing really well, he's right next to Luke Shaw. Surely that will rub off on him and make him play well. And I think that's what, that fits in with bringing in a really good centre-back next to him. Do you think that Bailly will start now when Zlatan is out? Bailly should have started if Zlatan played because Zlatan is so good on the head, says Elias. Sounds a bit wrong. Eric Bailly will definitely play tonight, and I think Tellez will start as well. I think Luke Shaw and Lindelof will get rested. Congratulations on 1 million, and I love the career mode. Will there be more Fall Guys? And also, can you call my friend Liam Constantine Pratt to spoofs? There will be some more Fall Guys. There's a season 3. Just check out my Mark Goldbridge, That's Football, and ask me about it later, and I'll tell you how you can get details for that, because obviously this is United Stand. Please smash the like on the video. Do you think Ollie plays too safe by not experimenting more with Ahmed, Van der Beek, and this impacts our ability to be more unpredictable, says Aditya? And who would win in a fight, Mark, a killer whale or a great white shark? A killer whale, Joshua Bowwater. I think that would be a close fight, but this is not that channel. This is the United Stand. So Amad Diallo, do I think he would start tonight? I don't think he's going to start tonight, but I wouldn't not start him tonight. Let's not forget, we're playing AC Milan. They're a Serie A side, and Diallo has spent his last however many years at Atalanta. This is the sort of football he's used to. This is the perfect opportunity to get Diallo involved. My only thought about maybe starting Diallo, and I'd say it's a slim chance, but I wouldn't say it's out of the question, is because we have got nobody. We've got nobody other than Dan James, Mason Greenwood and Martial. Rashford cannot play tonight and may not play on Sunday against West Ham. Cavani cannot play tonight and may not be fit for West Ham. So you could play the same front three that you're going to play against West Ham. Now, some people would say, well, do that to get a bit of fluidity. But another look at it is, well, maybe give Diallo some game time, because if one of those gets injured as well, you're going to have to play him anyway. I think Diallo's got to get a good chunk of game time tonight, because if Ollie doesn't use Diallo tonight and he's just like, oh, I'll use Rashi on Sunday even if he's got a bad ankle, or I'll play Cavani even though he might get injured again. Like, if we lose Martial or we lose Greenwood or we lose James, you've got to play Diallo. There's nobody else. So I think Diallo starting tonight wouldn't be a bad idea, but I certainly think you've got to give him 20 minutes, half an hour in a game like this, because this is where he grew up as well. This is where he knows Italian football. So I think it's Diallo time again tonight. I think we need to get another chunk of time for Diallo. I'm not saying that he's ready to start games and in the Premier League or anything like that, but he's not Show Retire. He's not Joe Hugel. He's not Hannibal. He's not a youth player. He is a player that we've spent a lot of money on, who has played in the Champions League and he's played in Serie A, and we need to start getting him more game time. And I think tonight's a good opportunity to do it. Congratulations on 1 million subscribers, and for your promotion, you should have been promoted to Director of Football at Man United, says Jack Lynch. Just to bring that, I want to talk about that. Sam Wallace, who I think writes for The Telegraph, I'm sorry if I've put him at the wrong paper. Maybe he will write for The Telegraph. Maybe he does. He was talking about the Director of Football appointment, and he said this, that Manchester United never wanted a Director of Football that was there to trade players. You know, basically, they didn't want a Director of Football that comes into the club and is a specialist in transfers. That's not what they wanted. They wanted somebody who understands the traditions of the club and has an overarching involvement in everything and development of the club. So it's in the DNA, DNA. That's what Manchester United want. They want to promote. Basically, United is a job for. I nearly said a job for the boys, but that's not right. We've got women's football and diversity, which is absolutely fantastic, and Manchester United are brilliant at that. But it's an old saying. It's like it's an old boys' club, isn't it? You know, jobs for the boys. It's like what it basically translates to is that it's, if you go for a job at McDonald's and you don't get it, but they give it to the mate of the bloke who's the boss, then it's a job for the boys, isn't it? It doesn't necessarily mean that it involves boys. In this situation, obviously, men's football is dominated by boys. But Manchester United love to recruit from within, and they love to recruit from within because they're obsessed with this DNA and Manchester United traditions. So what Sam Wallace is basically saying there is that Manchester United didn't want to bring in a specialist from Atletico Madrid or Juventus or anything. They didn't want a specialist director of football. They wanted to promote from within. And what they're doing is they're hiding behind the fact that the positive of doing that is that they know the club and they know the traditions of the club, which is absolutely fine. And as I said, we're going to have to see what happens. The proof's in the pudding, and the pudding's being served up this summer. So we'll see what happens. Because if we sign Varane and we sign Declan Rice and we sign Jadon Sancho, I don't think anybody can complain. So Manchester United can wake up this morning and say, oh, it's a bit of a shame there's a bit of negativity from the fan base about this appointment. Well, that's football. You get that in life. If you haven't got haters, then you're not doing something right anyway. But also, it's for you to prove that you've made the right decision. It's not for us to say you've made the right decision with no evidence. The only evidence we've got is incompetence over the last 8 years in the transfer window. So you can't just say we're appointing somebody from within. Everybody get excited when we go, well, that person's been at the club the last few years and it's not been very good. Maybe he wasn't massively involved in that. Let's see what he can do from here. And I think every United fan is like, let's see what happens. But they're very sceptical because it's still the same people involved in the key decisions of what's going on in the club. But they can prove us wrong in the summer. And they can start getting the praise that they clearly want in the summer. It's on them to do that. But what I would say is Manchester United just keep talking about the traditions of bringing youth through. Can I just say, as a fan of United for decades, we don't actually bring loads of players through. Like, we don't. I think there's this misconception that we can't go and we don't want to focus on transfers because we're so good at bringing young players through. Manchester United have got an amazing record in relation to youth development. I think it's the 1930s that we've always had a youth player in our matchday squad, and that will never stop. And that's an amazing record that no other club gets anywhere near. But can I just say, the class of 92 broke through in the mid-90s. We're heading towards it's 2021. Like, that's a long time ago. And in between the class of 92 and now, you could probably count on your hand in 25 years decent players that have come through the youth setup. We haven't got a gravy train of young talent coming through. So to think that it's a bad idea to bring in a specialist transfer director of football because you want to focus on youth development and traditions of what the club's all about. There is no guarantee that if you focus on youth development, you're going to produce David Beckham or Ryan Giggs every couple of years. Now, that's a great thing to try and aim to do, but it's a very difficult thing to do. Manchester City have spent massive amounts on their youth development. Chelsea have as well. And they have good young players, but how many of them actually hit the first team? Not that many. So, look, since the class of 92, you've had people like Darren Fletcher, John O'Shea, obviously Wes Brown, Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, and that's 5. And the people will probably give me another 5, but there's not that. It's, over 25 years, that's not a massive hit rate. And some of those players I've named were squad players anyway. So it's a difficult thing to focus on and get right. Hi Mark, it's my birthday today. I wanted to thank you for everything you've done to keep our spirits up over the years, says Anjani. Happy birthday, mate. As director of football, what would you do with Martial, says Hollis. I think Martial... I think Martial decides his future, to be honest. If he wants to go, then United should let him go. If we are being real, we've only bought youth through due to necessity rather than actual rewarding them. Do you agree, says Hashim? Well, I think that's the danger of bringing youth through. It's that it's a cheap option, isn't it? If you bring youth through, it doesn't cost very much. And I wonder... Look, I don't think the Glazers own Manchester United because they love Manchester United. I think they own Manchester United because it was a great business deal. And I think that they will always look to save money because they want money out of the club. They take more money out of the club than any other Premier League club. And they pretty much take more money out of the club than any other Premier League club combined. So that's how much money they take out of this football club. So I think when there's a focus on youth development, it's brilliant because you can absolutely get the violin out and start, playing the tune to Manchester United fans about we're all about the youth. We're all about the youth. But actually... yeah, we love that. We love that song. But also, being about the youth is also a cheap way to save money as well because you don't have to spend the money on expensive players. Which brings me on to what I wanted to talk about, my homework. Do you think we should just let Cavani go, says Joshua Bowwater? City aren't keeping their legend in Aguero as he is surplus to requirements. Surely we can do better too. Good point. I'll talk about Cavani in a minute. Last night's show, somebody asked me what was the difference between before the Glazers and after the Glazers. I've gone 4 years before and 4 years after, just to give you a glimpse of what the change is. Now, the overarching headline is the difference between Manchester United pre-Glazers and post-Glazers is that we weren't owned by people who didn't support the club, who bought us on a business deal, put us into debt and wanted to make money out of us. But if you look at Manchester United in the 4 years before the Glazers came in, the summer before the Glazers bought us, we bought Wayne Rooney and we spent about just over £40 million. Now, remember inflation. Inflation is probably about 150% from where it was there. So you can add another, if we spent 50 million that summer, you can say add another 20, add another, be about another, I don't know what it would be. I'm crap on inflation, but it'd be a lot more money. Basically, what we spent on Rio Ferdinand, it was about 30 million. In modern day prices, it'd be about 80. So the value of the money doesn't really matter because it's a lot bigger. But effectively, we bought Rooney in 04. We bought Ronaldo in 03. We bought Rio in 02. And we bought Varane and Van Nistelrooy in 01. So in the 4 years before the Glazers came in, we bought some of the best talent in the world. In the 4 years before. In the 4 years after, we bought Vidic and Evra, who weren't... we spent just over 15 million on Vidic and Evra. We bought Carrick. We sold Rude. We bought Anderson. Our most significant summer was 2 years after the Glazers had bought us, and it was the year that we went on to win the Champions League in 08. We bought Anderson for 30, Nani for 23, and Hargreaves for 22. That was our most significant summer in the first 4 years of the Glazers, and we went on to win the Champions League. Then we bought Berbatov, and then we bought Ronaldo we bought Valencia for 17 and sold Ronaldo for 85. So there was a very, very, very distinct change in what Manchester United's transfer policy was before the Glazers and after the Glazers. Before the Glazers, it was very much... they're the best young talent. Go and buy them, no matter what the cost. Rooney was a major investment. Van Nistelrooy was a major investment. Ronaldo wasn't he wasn't massively expensive, but in modern days terms, he was probably about 40 million. And obviously, Rio Ferdinand was a huge investment. And that's what Manchester United were doing in the years before the Glazers. The years after the Glazers, it became more about balancing the books. The signings weren't as significant. There wasn't a Rooney, there wasn't a Rio, there wasn't a Ronaldo. Like I said, our most significant signing really was people like Michael Carrick, who there wasn't a queue for. Good signing, but wasn't a queue for. Anderson, Nani, again, good signings, but there wasn't a queue for those. We changed. We went from... I suppose in the modern day, what Man United stopped doing is instead of, and this summer example would be, instead of going for Varane, you get Pau Torres. And instead of going for Jadon Sancho, you get Adama Traore. And that's basically what United started doing in the 4 years after the Glazers came in. Whereas in the 4 years before that, you went and got the best player you could get. And especially if they were a young up-and-coming player. I mean, like Rio Ferdinand had just had a brilliant World Cup. Wayne Rooney had just had a brilliant Euros. Ronaldo obviously was this star player that everyone, thought was going to be a superstar. And Van Nistelrooy, well, we know what he was. So, yeah. Dave says, Rio vs Van Nistelrooy, Ronaldo and Rooney versus Anderson, Nani and Hargreaves, case closed. Yeah, I just think it was a different type of approach. And then obviously we went through the wilderness years of no value in the market. Then Sir Alex Ferguson retired. And to be fair, since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, the investment has been huge. I'm never going to be somebody who sits back and says the Glazers haven't invested a lot of money since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Unfortunately, the big problem of the last 8 years, we have spent money. I think in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a bit shit, to be honest. 60 million net spend's not been great. But if you look at what we spent on Mata, what we spent on, Van Gaal had a lot of money as well. Mourinho had quite a bit of money. Maguire was a lot of money. I think that the problem of the last 8 years is that somebody said we spent £1 billion. Where's that money? Where is that £1 billion? Did we get £1 billion back? No. What that shows to me is that we just have. I mean, even Mata for 40 million. That was a lot of money in 2000 and was it 13 or 14? We bought Mata. Would have been 2014, I think. January 2014, I think it was. Massive waste of money. I mean, considering that in 2014, the 40 million we spent on Mata would probably be 60, 70 million today. That's a lot of money. Did we get value out of that? So I think Man United have spent money in the last 8 years, but the problem is the people spending the money have been useless, next to useless in relation to that. So yeah, I mean, look, it's just an interesting thing that I wanted to bring in there. So Matic has been talking about leaving, going to Benfica. I think that on that one, I would agree that Nemanja Matic, it's time to go. He's not really had the season that we would want him to. So people are talking about Fabrizio Romano tweets. The only thing I can see that Fabrizio Romano has tweeted about David Alaba is there's no verbal agreement with Barcelona. The news is not true. The only club that reached a verbal agreement with Alaba is Real Madrid, as reported, but it's not signed yet. So he's just saying about that. And then there's also something about Real Madrid, Juventus saying that they're going to rebuild the team. McKennie, Chiesa, De Ligt, Chesney will be part of the project. There'll be discussion with Cristiano Ronaldo and his future contract. Ramsey could leave the club. Pirlo already announced he's staying as manager. So there you go. That's just about what Fabrizio Romano has said, if anybody's caring about that. But yeah, Matic has been talking. I don't know why he's been talking to the Portuguese press. Obviously, he's played at Benfica and he said you never know. I think he's basically saying he'd like to go and play at Benfica. And I think for Matic, as a Serbian who played in Benfica, it's a nice place to live, nice climate. Maybe he's thinking, that's a league that I can go and retire in. And I think this is it's a logical move for Matic for me. I know Ricky would disagree, but there's 2 players beginning with M that need to go and retire this summer. I don't have a massive problem with either of them. In fact, one of them I absolutely love. I think if there was ever such a term as abuse in football, then we've abused Juan Mata's career. I think we just totally misused him. People talk about people like Mkhitaryan and Kagawa. Well, maybe they weren't ever good enough, I don't know. But Juan Mata, I mean, bloody hell. We bought a really good player there in Juan Mata and stuck him on the wing. I mean, it will always be... Varane, for the younger people, you won't know this, but we bought Varane. We just mentioned 2001, I think it was. We bought Varane and Van Nistelrooy. In fact, I wrote it down. We spent £38 million on Varane in 2001. Modern day prices, that would probably be around about 80 million quid. Massive signing, Varane, and it just didn't work out. But Mata was a massive signing, and we just misused him. We missed out. Varane, I'm calling him Varane. I wish we had, but I've got Varane on the mind. I want to buy Varane. It's Varane. It's because we saw Matt Varane at the start. I wish we had bought Varane. So yeah, Varane. I loved him as a player. I thought he was going to be a brilliant. He had that bandage just under his knee, didn't he? And I loved Varane. I thought he was a fantastic player, and it just didn't work out. But Mata, I think we abused Mata as a footballer. I think we're sticking him on the wing. ridiculous. But he's got to go. Mata needs to go and retire in Spain, and Matic needs to go and retire in Benfica if that's what he wants to do. So I think both those players have got to go. If we keep those players next year, it shows a total lack of ambition at this football club, because they are basically keeping people around who aren't good enough anymore and don't really offer us anything, and are also a barrier to the youth. Those two players stop youth players making it onto the bench. So Mata and Matic need to go this summer, and Matic certainly hinting that he might. Just to go back about the question about Cavani, the indication is with Cavani that he will stay at Manchester United for another year. There's some more reports coming out of South America that he will stay at Manchester United for another year, because the World Cup is coming up the following year and he wants to be playing in Europe. However, there was another story saying that I think the birth of his son is going to happen this year. So obviously he knows he's having a boy, or maybe it's the birth of his child, and that will happen in South America, back in Uruguay. Boca Juniors want him, and I think the Copa America is taking place this summer as well. So he's going to be back in South America this summer. And there is this feeling that if he gets back to South America before he's agreed to stay at Manchester United, then, he might have a longing to stay there and do a deal with Boca. So it'll be interesting with Cavani. Will he? And I think that's the thing about Cavani. I'd say I'm probably 50-50 on Cavani, whether he's going to stay at United. I think if we can get him to sign for another year before he goes home, then he will, obviously. But if he goes back, and if he says, I want to think about it over the summer, then Man United probably need to move on. So it's very much the same as Pogba, isn't it? It's like, Pogba's not going to give us a decision until he knows all his options, and he's not going to know all his options until after the Euros and he's on holiday in July. So that's very late in the transfer window for United to know what's going to happen with Pogba. I can't see Paul Pogba signing a new contract at Manchester United until at least August, because I think he will wait to see what his options are. If Cavani does the same, then United, as I said yesterday, this transfer window that we're all thinking is going to be significant, I think it is going to be significant, but it doesn't have to be significantly good. It could be significantly bad. And in many ways, Manchester United could spend that summer waiting on a lot of things. Like, what if Varane says, I'm going to leave, and then he wants to talk to everybody? Well, that's going to go late into the summer. Pogba's going to go late into the summer. Cavani could go late into the summer. The goalkeeping situation could go late into the summer. So it could be that United are stuck going late into the summer on a lot of things. In which case, will they be dynamic or will they be reactive? And if they're reactive, they're going to leave themselves with not enough time. I mean, worst case scenario, Cavani says, I'm going to wait till I'm going to go home and think about it. And then at the end of July, he says, I'm not signing. Pogba says, I'll think about it. I'm going to wait and see what my options are. And then says, I'm going to leave at the end of July. And then you're like, well, we haven't bought a striker. We haven't bought a midfielder. We're waiting on our centre-back situation because Koundé and Varane have been at the Euros as well. And you get to August, the season kicks off. You've got no Pogba, you've got no centre-back, you've got no striker. Is that unlikely? Well, not. I don't think it is with Manchester United. So I'm hoping that our plans are in place and we push forward with those plans, because if you're not decisive, then you could end up short next season. And I tell you what, if Solskjaer goes into next season short, I think he'll be sacked by Christmas, because I just don't think we'll get away with it this next year. Not with this squad. This squad that we've got at the moment, without Pogba in it, without Cavani in it, I can't see us getting away with it next year. I think we'll be battling for fourth. But I said that this year though, and Ollie might pull a miracle out again. Unless things change, Koundé is uncapped, so no Euros, says Robert McCormack. I mean, look, if that could be a good thing, Robert. I think I said that yesterday. If there are players that Manchester United that are good enough for Man United that are not going to be part of the Euros, then I think that's another reason to go for them. I wouldn't mind it if Koundé's not part of the French Euros squad, because that means that you can actually do that deal in June. I would like to think that Manchester United have got some players that they can go for in June, because, I mean, look, people talk about De Gea and Henderson. De Gea will be with the Spanish squad. Henderson will be with the... Because somebody just said the goalkeeping situation will be easy to resolve. De Gea is going to be with the Spanish squad, and Henderson's going to be with the English squad, which means they're going to be on holiday until mid-July. So, how are you going to say... I can already see... And I love doing this show and I love doing this channel, because actually you get a little bit more depth than what you get in the mainstream media, because they just want to chuck a headline out. Can you not see what I fear? I can see a traffic jam at the end of July for United where they've got to sort Pogba out, Cavani out, the goalkeeping situation out, the centre-back out, the right winger out, because Sancho will be playing in the Euros as well. Too much. Declan Rice will be playing in the Euros. Too much to do. We are not going to get a CDM, a centre-back, a right winger in this summer, are we? And sell a goalkeeper and deal with Pogba. We're not going to get all that done in 2 weeks at the end of July and August when the season starts. This is the challenge that Manchester United Football Club face this summer. And if they're not organised and they haven't made decisions, then it's going to be a bloody traffic jam at the end of the transfer window, because you can already see that all these players, they're going to be like, the season will end at the end of May. It's going to be straight into the Euros, and then they're going to want a holiday to think about it, and then you're in the middle of July. So yeah, it's going to be very, 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 very compressed. But having said that, if you go into the transfer window like a Man City would, or a Chelsea would, or a Bayern Munich would, I mean, Bayern Munich have already got their centre back. Upamecano is already there, and this is what I mean. If you go into the transfer window and you're decisive, and look, decisive means, look, Henderson's for sale. He's the goalkeeper who's going, or De Gea, whatever. One of them's for sale, and you put it out there now. They're for sale. Get on it, because I don't think prices are going to massively go up because of the Euros, because not everyone's got money. So I think the Euros is going to be restrictive because players will be with the Euros and then they'll be on holiday. I don't think it's necessarily going to push prices up. There's not many tournaments where you're going to get loads of players like Pogba, Sancho, and Varane going into the Euros, and it's going to boost their price. They're not all going to get boost, but I think it's that. But if United went into this transfer window and were like, we're selling a goalkeeper, Pogba can go, Cavani's gone, we need a centre-back, we need a striker, we need a centre midfielder, and we need a right winger, and we're going to sell Lingard, and we're going to get rid of Mata and Matic. It's not simple, but you go into it knowing what you're going to do. These are the things we're going to do. And this is the aim to be done by the end of August. But if you go into it and you're like, I don't know which goalkeeper we're going to sell. We might keep both. I don't know what's happening with Pogba. I don't know what's happening with Cavani. We don't know what centre-back we want. I don't know how much money we've got. We might keep Jesse as well. It's just a mess. They've got to have a structure going into it, haven't they? Cavani. I mean, just on Declan Rice as well. I did write it down here as well. Two things I wanted to say. Rashford not playing tonight. Is anybody really fussed about that? Of course you want Marcus Rashford to play, because he's one of our best players. But I'm not bothered about Rashford not playing tonight. And I would be very angry if we did play Rashford tonight, because he's so obviously injured in more ways than one, that risking Rashford tonight would just be bordering on insane. Do not pick Rashford tonight. And in a way, I find it exciting that Rashford's not playing tonight, because it definitely means that Greenwood and James will start. And I think we all want to see what they've got in their locker. And it also means that Diallo probably will get some game time. And it gives Marcus the rest he needs, because West Ham is a massive game. So I'm not worried about Rashford not playing tonight. And he definitely shouldn't be playing. And as Jack says, it would be stupid to pick him. Exactly. Imagine if you risk Rashford tonight and then he's out for a month. You miss the Leicester game, you get knocked out of the Cup, you lose to West Ham at the weekend, you get knocked out by Milan next week. It's just not worth the risk for one game. It really isn't. But it will be interesting what Ollie does around that. And Declan Rice, I just want to say, I was talking to a Chelsea fan yesterday who does, they're quite close to the club, they do a blog and everything, and they were saying that just don't see how Declan Rice will fit into Tuchel's plans now that I've seen Tuchel's plans, because there was talk that Frank Lampard wanted Declan Rice because he can play at centre-back, he can play box-to-box, and he can play as a holding midfielder, so he can play in a lot of positions. But Tuchel, I don't think he'd play him at centre-back, because I think that's not the sort of centre-back he's looking for. I don't think he'd play him as the holding midfielder, because I don't think he's on the ball, he doesn't move the ball like Tuchel wants it to be moved. It's a lot of, basically, Tuchel would like Declan Rice, Chelsea would like Declan Rice, but the price they'd have to pay for him, would he be a guaranteed starter in that team in the way that Tuchel wants to play football? So the feeling is that Declan Rice will probably stay at West Ham. Can Manchester United factor in that? They've got to want to factor in that. I think Jesse Lingard is our only hope in that. I think Jesse Lingard should go to West Ham, unless he can get anywhere better. I think West Ham would fit in perfectly. I think that, Jesse's a very, I think London would suit Jesse. I think it's a vibrant place like Manchester, but obviously a bit more vibrant because it's bigger. And I think Lingard would suit West Ham. I think it's the perfect club for him. And it shows how crazy this season has been when West Ham are considered a big game, says Ollie. Yeah, well, they're playing well, but obviously Lingard won't play against us. But that's for tomorrow to talk about the preview. But I think Declan Rice at Manchester United, it fits us where it might not fit Chelsea, because we don't play like Tuchel. We don't play this possession, organised game. But I think Declan Rice would be a bit of a risk for Chelsea in that sense. But for us, he'd be a brilliant player because he's better than Fred, he's better than Matic, and he's better than McTominay, especially in that role. And he would automatically start for us. He would be our specialist CDM, and he would have the opportunity, and he's a leader as well, but he would have the opportunity to take that role and make it his own for years to come at Manchester United, and potentially build out to be a Manchester United captain. The reality is, does that excite Declan Rice? Does the fact that you could take the Manchester United centre defensive midfield role, like Rodri's done at Man City, and make it your own? And I'm not saying he's like Rodri, but I'm saying is he could just be that one player. We play two, and neither of them are that good at it. Declan Rice could play that one centre defensive midfield role, supported by a Van der Beek or a Pogba or a McTominay and a Bruno. And that, to me, is what Manchester United should be selling to Declan Rice, because I don't think Chelsea can sell him that. I don't think Chelsea really see him as that. Manchester United would. Whether they're in the race, whether they're thinking that competently, I don't know. United should be looking at him. He's young, he's a leader, he's ready to take the step up. We could do something around Lingard. I think he would be. I think he fits Manchester. I think if Manchester United was the club that Declan Rice supported as a kid, and it was in London, he would be all over wanting to come to United. I think the fact is that his family and him support Chelsea. It's in London. It's not much of an upheaval. That's the attraction. But I think for his career and his footballing career, Manchester United is the better fit for Declan Rice. But it's whether United are in it, and it's whether United can convince him to do it. But I think he would be absolutely spot on for what Manchester United need. I'm not saying he wouldn't fail, because anybody can fail, but I do think he would work really, really well. And I think there's a similar player that we took from London back in 2006, and his name was Michael Carrick. Different players, but similar position, and look how that works. Carrick came out of London, went to Manchester United, and for me, Michael Carrick's one of our most significant signings of the last 20 years. I thought he was an amazing signing, and he ran that midfield, and that's exactly what we need. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Interesting show, enjoyed that, and we are back tonight. Well, this evening. I'd like to say tonight. We're not back tonight. We're back this afternoon, basically. 4:30 we'll be live with the team news. Interested and excited to see what that is. And I'll speak to you all then. Have a good day. If you want to watch FIFA today, unfortunately it's got to be a little bit early, because I normally do it at like 4:45 until 4:45, but because of the Europa League I can't do that. So I'm going to be doing it at 1:45 until 2:45. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.